This is Sandi Maki, coming to you with heavy breathing just before midnight. I would absolutely love to have some mind maps and some transcripts of the podcasts that I've put together. Maybe someday that will happen. Maybe I'll have them transcribed, or maybe there's someone who's busy listening who jots down the main ideas and points in each of these podcasts for a quick reference guide. If that might describe you, I would be interested in chatting and having you maybe come to work on my team so that we can add these to the website. The reason that I'd love to have the mind map and know what some of the main topics were in each podcast is because I find myself having random conversations with fun, everyday, real people, not online necessarily. And topics come up in our conversation that I remember having talked about in some sense. Some of these situations where the topics come up, it's interesting just to me. In some of the others, though, I do feel compelled to share with whoever I'm chatting with that I talked about this in one of my podcasts and that they might want to check it out just to see if there's anything of interest there, or maybe it'll reiterate something we're talking about or offer a separate opinion. So I know that each of them has their own title, and you can get to some of the content based on what is highlighted, although they are a little bit random. So in 10, 15, or 20 minutes, we can hit probably 6 to 10 topics on any given day, each one in its own way meant to prompt a thought, a reflection, an inner dialogue about where it came from and where it's going. So anyway, if you're listening and you are interested, it might be something to check out. If somebody is not familiar with the process of mind mapping, you might want to do a Google search, especially if you are the highly creative sort or if you have multiple ideas going on in your head at any given time. Of course, that would occasionally apply to me. The mind map process, depending on who's sharing it, has an approach of picking a concept or a topic or an idea or a question. Really, you can frame it on many different levels. So you pick something and that serves as your center point. And then from that, you would start to map the ideas out. So maybe I have a main idea or a question, and then I think of another main idea or question that relates to that, and then the main idea and questions that relate to each of those. And then from that center point, so now you have like an arm kind of the mind map with some content on it. And then maybe you have another arm that comes out in another direction with another topic, but then maybe you find that a couple of the topics overlap. So this is where powerful mind mapping software, made possible by our newly technology-driven society, can really help us put some of these into a big, complex diagram for us to take a look at. Why would we want to take our ideas out of our head and put them in a big, complex diagram? Or why would I want to have some of what I've shared online in the audio format be put into paper? Everybody learns just a little bit differently. Everybody processes a little bit differently. An idea in your head, until it comes out, is just an idea in your head. And once you get it out, either you speak it or you think it and record it, or you mind map it, then it has the real possibility of becoming something. So if you have a lot of random thoughts, mind mapping can probably help you get a little bit more sleep at night, maybe meditate if you're having a little bit of that craziness come up when you're trying to do some quiet activities. It could be something to share with others while you're doing collaboration. It could be just something for you to put in a file and take a look at down the road. It's also a way to solve problems and see how two unlike things could be like things, and to step back and get a little bit of perspective on how things go together. So I think it would be great to put this together. One word of, well, it'll be more than one word, but one little bit of advice, especially if you are the type of personality that would have a tendency to overanalyze and overthink things. In your case, I know that you will really, really, really want to mind map. And in your case, I would recommend that whatever your ideas are, you start before you get into the detail of mind mapping. Because part of what I would encourage you to do is have an idea and expand on that idea instead of trying to perfect the system in which you will place that idea for future recall. Of course, I could argue that one in another direction also. Today, however, that's the random angle that I'm going to take because it would hold true for myself. I could be so worried right now about getting all of these episodes to date mind mapped because, I have however many I have now, and if I don't do it now, then I'll have that many more, and then I won't know what's in each episode. And if I start now, I have the better chance of having that all captured. Or I could get over that. I could keep creating content, keep recording these thoughts and insightful moments as they come up. I can add a couple words. Usually I use I said a couple, and that's a pet peeve of mine. A couple is like a couple, 2, maybe 3 at the most, a few, kind of 3 or more. So I said I use a couple words when I label these. That's not true. I use several words. So several is more than a few, which is more than a couple, which is more than 1, which is more than 0, or less than 0, if we're looking at 0 as unlimited possibilities versus no possibilities. Have I lost you yet? I didn't think so. So I choose several words to relate what's in each of these podcasts. I would be curious, based on how everybody's mind processes, to find out which keywords would you choose for this post? Because I would hazard a guess that if I had 10 different people listening to this, we would get unlimited combinations if we limited the keywords to about 3. I don't know that any 2 people in a sampling of 30 would have the same keywords identical. Although the statistician in this group would probably give me what those odds were. So if I had 100 people listening to this post, each choosing 3 keywords, perhaps there would be even more than that. It's interesting. It's pretty cool to think about how many different perspectives we have in this world. And then I say let's just skip some of that analytic stuff and keep recording podcasts because that's really where the action is and where we will discover even more than if we try to put everything into a rigid system on a piece of paper. That's my thought. I would love to hear yours. I would be happy to find out which keywords you chose for this podcast. And I would also like to know if anybody is listening who's been keeping track since the beginning, what ideas have been outlined. We'll see if something is going to bring that to be. So until next time, this is Sandi with Heavy Breathing Just Before Midnight, pondering mind mapping, collaboration, perspective, and keywords. Make it an excellent day.